Welcome to my house, folks. Buck here. And I'm back with another Frumpy Buckle instructional video. This is another one in the beginner series. I got so many of these on my to-do list, and I finally had some time to get another one out. So this one's kind of important, especially for you beginner fishermen out there. And that's what this video is for. It's, like I said, beginner series. This one here is the real buyer's guide, so to speak. We've got a lot of reels in this game, a lot of spinning reels, a lot of casting reels, and there's a lot of information involved in these reels, and they're a very important part of building a balanced weapon in this game. So I'm going to try to give you my knowledge a little bit, try to break it down a little bit for you guys that are not fishermen, but you love the game, you love to fish, and you'd like to get out there and do it for real. Great. Hit me up. I mean, if you live anywhere near me and you've never fished before, but you play this game and you know me, hit me up. I'll take you out there. We'll go fishing. Absolutely. So, what we're going to do today is I'm going to try to explain a little bit about the mega store and how you need to approach this when you're setting up, when you're buying your weapons, you're buying your gear. I call these the engine part of my weapon. You got to stick in an engine, and that kind of how I deal with it. So we're going to go over that. We're going to talk about mainly the 8 things that they list under their specs. Right? There's ratio, there's recovery, there's capacity, there's max drag, ball bearings, weight, drag, and the kicker, what Fishing Planet calls friction section count. Yeah, that's that. Well, I'm going to explain that to you because that only exists in Fishing Planet. Okay, kind of like where Fishing Planet got it wrong, in my opinion. Now, I play some other fishing games. Some are junk, and I let you know about them, and some are pretty good. And there's another one out there that gets this right. The drag mechanism is the most important part of this engine. All right, it's a mechanical means of applying a variable. That's a key word, variable friction to the spool or the drive mechanism in order to act as a friction brake. So what this does is it allows you, the drag mechanism, the whole mechanism itself, allows you to catch bigger fish than that recommended line and reel and rod have established. So, in other words, if you've got 10-pound gear, your drag system allows you to catch 15, 20-pound fish on that gear. That the drag system allows that. And of course, that's all about they all working together because the amount of flex in your stick also helps so it's a balanced dance, so to speak. It's all got to work right in order to have a very good experience. But this, if you get it all set up right, this will allow you to catch large fish on smaller tackle. Now, we're going to talk about that. So what did they get wrong? Well, they invented these friction sections, and we have them with every reel in the game. And that allows you, let's look at it, they call it a pie graph in mathematics. I'm not a pie guy, so I'm going to call it a pizza graph. All right, think of this as a pizza graph. And we got a medium pizza here in front of us we're about to eat, but we definitely can't eat a 16-piece, so we're going to cut it in 8 pieces, so we only got 8 pieces to eat. That's kind of like what they're doing here. You've got a circle. This friction count, let's get over there and take a look at it, because I've got it up over there, look. And we let these guys take a look at what's over there, except for that part of there. That's not supposed to be up. What is that? That's your acer. We're going to get rid of that. I don't see it up there anywhere. There it is. There it's on. Now we turned it off. All right, let's go over there. All right. Friction sections count 6 on this one. So in other words, they took that pizza and they cut it in 6 pieces. So you only have 6 settings to adjust your drag, and it's going to move up 1/6 every time you click it. 1/6 of 100% is what it's going to do every time you click that drag. That's not very good. Not bad if you're fighting small fish. If you're fighting small fish, and of course this is a 2.75 pound, come on game, quit. All right, we're stuttering a little bit here. All right, it's a small gear. This is a mini spin. All right, this is our baby, our first one out of the gate. All right, but so the friction count really doesn't come into play here much because you kind of set it. This is for small fish. They all weigh about the same. You're not making many adjustments with this type, so you can get away with this 6 friction count thing, not a problem. Okay, and then you move up now here now, and you look at different manufacturers go different friction sections. Okay, so the mini spin is done by who? Flagman. Okay, here's Magfin. Now Magfin's 3.2 pounder. Their friction count is 12 here. So now we got 12 pieces of the pie. Each time we click that plus or minus sign or whatever your up drag or down drag is, you're only affecting it by 1/12. Right? So it's more fine tuned. In fact, it's twice as much as the mini spin. So you have a lot of play here. And why do you want these large ones? Well, when you're fighting larger fish, where let's say a young may weigh a certain amount of weight, but you latch onto a uni and you're talking 10 pounds difference, maybe easily 10 pounds difference. Well, now you want you want the smaller pieces of pizza because you want a finer adjustment. You get one of these 6 counts on a large, you click it one time, that could be enough to bang, snap, your line's gone, one click. So you got to think about that when you're buying these reels to put on you. What kind of fish are you targeting? What are you going to hunt? What are you going to use this weapon for? And then decide whether you're 6, 12, or 8. I think there's a few. Now here's your Inspire casts. They come with 8 sections. All right. So this is a very important thing in Fishing Planet. This friction section count. In real life, it doesn't work that way. It's a tightening. It's a tightening of the. In fact, let's go back there, Buck. I happen to have one sitting here. So the parts of a normal fishing rod is you've got your foot, your arm, your handle. You got the bail. This little part of this connected to the bail is called your line guide. All right. And you have a spool, and then now you're on a spinning reel. Your drag is either in the front here with a dowel, or it's in the back. Okay, now let's talk about that for a little bit. And then also you have, normally it's either a little switch, or like this one here is like a safety on the gun. This is your anti-reverse lock, so you can't spin the reel backwards. Very, very handy and a need to have on a spinning reel like this. Okay, so these are the parts of this reel. Now, your front drag always works a little better because it's more precise and it stays the same often because it's applied directly to the spool. So your friction, and there are friction pads, not friction sections. There are pads in these reels and what they call friction washers. And as you tighten this up in the front, it applies pressure to the spool, therefore taking it more drag, harder to pull out on. All right? So there you go. Now, you can do this in here, and we'll talk about capacity in a minute because they've destroyed that too. That's a disaster. But capacity is, how much poundage line you can put on here. Maximum drag is another thing that we talk about. That's another one of our stats here is the maximum drag. Maximum drag is when this thing is fully set to where that's it. It's solid. It's not going to give. Maximum drag is the setting that will break this reel. if you go over it. So let's say this is an 8-pound reel, and you go ahead and put 10-pound test on it and run it up to max drag. Well, all it takes is an 8.1 pound fish to hit that thing and jerk, and the line's not going to break. It's going to break something in here. All right. Now that's very minimal at 8.1, but you get the idea. The maximum drag setting is where if you overrun that, you're going to do damage to the reel at that point. That's what they talk about. So you never want to hit that maximum drag. And that's why you have to fight bigger fish longer to tire them out so they quit pulling. And then you can adjust your drag up tighter to pull them in because of the weight of the fish. I mean, you can get a fish that completely gives up, and you can't even pull them in at times if you're really fishing for big fish on light tackle. You can have a problem actually pulling a tired fish in because it weighs more than your gear. But you can land them. All right? So anyway, that's the parts of everything of a spinning rod. Okay? And you either have, like I said, you have the drag in the front, or you may have a reel like this, got the drag in the back. This is kind of nice. When you're fighting a fish, you can adjust your drag from back here instead of getting your hands up into the business end of things. However, they go directly against the drive shaft, not the spool. They're not as they don't stay as consistent. In my opinion. So it's not a bad thing to deal with, by no means, but if you can get them in the front and deal with the front part of it, you'll be more satisfied, I think, in my opinion. Now, the difference between these spinning reels and bait casting reels, right? They pretty much have the same stuff. The handle, the line guide. Now, they have a thumb bar. I don't have my casting gear. I apologize. I couldn't grab a reel out of there. They're all winterized. They're in the boat. I can't get to them. So, anyway. They got the spool a little smaller on the inside. You know what a cast. Everybody knows what those casting reels look like, the difference in looking at them. So they got a tinier spool in the middle. It's much more difficult to set these casting reels up because you have 3 adjustments, basically, that you have to get right in order to make your fishing trip pleasurable. Otherwise, any one of those 3 you don't get right, and you're talking backlashes, bird's nest, you're going to spend more time trying to untangle stuff, cussing, swearing, throwing stuff down. Don't do that. Get yourself a bucket out in the yard with a sinker before you go fishing with a brand new casting rod and get it set up right, because you have a casting control tension, you have a spool tension, and a drag. So you've got 3 things that a spinning reel basically doesn't have any of that, right? So you've got a spool that spins inside of a bait caster, where the whole spool spins on a spinning reel. So you got this little tiny spool in there that's spin 100 miles an hour. If you got it set up wrong. So you got to create tension, enough tension so it pulls out nicely, considering the weight that you're using. So therefore, you're always adjusting, because if you're throwing different weights on a bait caster all the time, changing your weights, you need to know, and you need to practice, because you need to know where you set your settings at if you're going to lighter lures versus heavier lures with that reel, because you will get backlashes, you will get a lot of stuff. And if you have it set up for, you got it all set up perfect for throwing a 2-ounce jig or something like that, and all of a sudden you throw something light on there, it's not even going to go out because it ain't heavy enough to pull the spool, and it's not going to spin. So that just for casting purposes, that has nothing to do with the drag at once you hook up. That's just getting the bait presented properly with the casting. So you have spool tension and you have casting. Now once you get your spool tension kind of right, then the casting tension helps you out. In the older days, they didn't have that. It was only just a spool tension that you had to use. Now they give you a spool tension and a casting tension. So you can kind of, if you're throwing a lighter lure, you can just knock her back a little bit and you won't have any problem with it. But that's something to remember. That's the difference in them. As far as drag goes, it's still the same thing. It's pressure applied to the spool. That's how the drag works. All right, so now let's go back over there. Wow. Hello. There we go. All right. So, with that being said, here we go. Mini spin. Okay, 275. Now, where I want to talk about this capacity thing. They get it confused here a lot, and I'll show you that. Like right now, they're talking about, okay, if you put 2 pound of mono on here, you can put 80 yards on there. Okay? That's how their wiki says it. That's what these numbers mean. Yards and pounds and yards. That's how many yards. And if you're using the British side, the metric system, it's what is it? Millimeters and meters. So it's millimeters thick, because that's what they use over there, how many millimeters thick it is. And the reason they give you the difference in braid, guys, is because braid is thinner all the time than mono. So you're always going to be able to get more braid. So I more braid on. So what they're saying is you can get 80 yards of 2 pound, and you get 80 yards of 4 pound braid. So you go up to 4 pound braid, and you can still get 80 yards on there, right? And every one of them does that, and it gives you max drag for this line. And here it is, the ratio. Now, 5.5 to 1. What is that ratio? Well, that's for every one turn of your crank, every one turn of your handle, the spool is going to turn 5.5 times. That's your ratio. And that is directly proportional to your recovery. Depending on the size of your reel, this recovery will go up. Okay? So they're saying this reel has a 5.51, and this is the 800. All right? So if we go to the mini spin, they say that these numbers basically, and I still can't figure out what they're talking about, but they say the 800, the 1000, 1200, this is spool size. And they say that's how much line it'll hold. We'll get up here a couple of series. They tell you, oh yeah, this is a 2K, this is a 3K line. Well, not 3,000 what? Inches, centimeters? None of these reels are going to hold 3,000 feet, inches. That ain't happening. 3,000 yards, say it ain't 3,000 feet. 100 yards is what? 330 feet. I don't know where they get these numbers from, to tell you the truth. I just don't get it. I mean, on the reel poles, the real reels, this is on there. But, you know, if I have a Shakespeare 3000, that doesn't tell me that I've got 3,000 feet or line on it. I don't get it with these guys, but that's how it works. Okay, now you got ball bearings. Of course, ball bearings, the more ball bearings you got, the smoother the mechanism runs. Weight doesn't really matter. It's, that's your stick. Drag, and this drag thing just telling you whether it's in the front or the back. And of course, the friction settings, like I said, are very, very important. That's how many adjustments you have for that particular reel. So let's go up a couple pounds here, because most of the beginners, where they really start buying their gears, right about here. I'd say 11, 12 pound range. You're just starting to get the new gear. You're getting that new feeder from the beginning. You're done with the mini spin and all that. And you in here to these primas, and again, here it is, the 3K line capacity. 3,000 line, 3,000 watt. I don't get it. For this one here, 12 pound, this is an 8.8 pound max drag. And they're giving you stats for 12 pound mono. That's a little heavy to me. That's where I say they get a little bit goofy. And they're telling me 20 pound braid. Well, yeah, I can put 20 pound braid on this reel. I could. But anything I catch that's over 8 pounds is going to do damage to my reel immediately. The line ain't going to break. So that's not smart at all. So I just don't get that at all. Ignore that. You'll learn from when you own your sticks, you'll learn how much mono. Remember, mono is thick, fluorocarbon's a little thinner, and braid is the thinnest. Okay, braid has no stretch. If you're going to use braid, you got to use a fluorocarbon leader. All right? Okay. So now, the MLR, okay, is the ML, and the drag's in the rear. That's what that means. Rear drag. 2,000, 2,500, 3,000. They're all the same, 11 pounders at 4 to 7 ratio there. So you got a 27.5 kickback on these guys as far as recovery goes. And your MLs, They go up just a little bit, 12.1, 4.7. Same drag, so it's all, they're all the same. It's just whether you want. And then they go, but the MLs jump up, and you get your 12.1, and then you can get into 12.1, and I think they go to the 13.2. And 13.2 is a big one there if you got that 13-pound flipping stick. Right here, this is what you're kind of looking at. Do I go with a Bremer, or do I go with the Inspira ML? Right? Well, friction section counts, fellas. Look at this. 8 with the Inspira, 8 with the Bremer, so you're good. Right? 8, 8, 8, they're both the same. So that doesn't make a decision for you. What makes the decision for you is the ratio. The Bremers are 5.5 to 1. That's 36.5 recovery on this one. This 13-pounder. This 13.2 only gets you 27. That's 10. So that's a no-brainer in my book. If you want to go with this 13.2, why? There's no reason to do it. Go to Bremer 13. Better stick. You're still going to put 15-pound test on it, so don't worry about it. You're getting a better recovery on the Bremer. So that you got to think about that kind of stuff. It's not always smart to go up that little bit, because you're killing yourself on recovery with the Inspiras, right? And the Bremers are better. And this works no matter what you do, no matter how far up you go. That's why I tell everybody the big rivers, like, if you're now this is another good range where we're in, a 19-pound range. You get your big ollies, or all that 18.5, 19-pound. Well, here's your reel right here. Anything that's in 19, 20, 21, 22 pounds, you want this reel on it. It doesn't matter what these other guys have, in my opinion. It doesn't matter. They're 17.6. They're, the only one is the Hornet Swarm here. He gives it competition because of the friction counts. You got a better drag setting mechanism on the Hornet Swarm. All right, he's a 19.8, 35.5 though on the recovery. Look at the recovery on the Big River. With a 6-to-1 ratio, you're almost 50-inch recovery. 49.2. You can't beat that. Now, if you went with me, and this is an 8 setting, I'm okay with the 8 setting. This, yes, the drag mechanism's a little better on the Hornet Swarm. You got 12 adjustments there. So that's your call on that one. I opt out for the Big River all the time. Alrighty, guys. And it's the same all the way up, no matter what you do. Think about that when you're going back and forth, when you're on the line between two different manufacturers here. I wouldn't worry about the capacity stuff so much at all. Don't worry about them numbers. I mean, look, they've got numbers here, 32 pound, and 30 pound for a 24 pound. I mean, yeah, okay, but why don't you give me good numbers that I can use? Like, this is 24 pounder. Tell me how much 20 pound test that I can put on there. How much 23 pound can I put on there? How much 25 pounds? Something in the ballpark here, fellas. All right. That's enough of my ranting and raving. All right, Buck, did you cover everything you wanted to? I think so. All right, folks. That's kind of it in a nutshell. I tried to break down, give you as much data that I could. I hope you could absorb all that in. If you new guys are just, you may not even know anything I'm talking about here, but if you understand this stuff, it'll really help you build some nice weapons. It'll save you some money at times too, because you don't necessarily have to go up to that bigger engine when you're building a weapon. Your stick can be you want your stick to be a couple pounds heavier, and then build an engine right underneath of that, and then you can always then even them up with the line that you put on it. So, with that being said, I hope you got something out of that. Remember, hit the like button on your way out the door. I'd appreciate that. Bump that like button, as they say. I'll be back with another one. I think we're going to do something else with lures. I'm going to take a look at to finish up my list on the beginner series. I have most of it done. We'll be back with another one. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot. We'll see you later. Never give up the fight.
Listen to the critics sing, the rattle of a log chain. Listen to the southbound breeze just creep. through the trees.